Thank you for joining to this class. In our last class, we're able to look extensively around the email and collaboration part of Microsoft Defender portal, which speaks to our Microsoft Defender for Office 365, because email and collaboration it's one of the Office 365 services that we have. So we're able to look at investigation, talking about automated investigation and response. From there, we're able to also look at Threat Explorer. So where we actually discuss more around Threat Explorer being a solution from Microsoft, right? That is also refers to as real-time detection, where we also can also call it Explorer itself. So it's a real-time report that allows you to identify and also analyze recent attacks. And you can also configure the Explorer to show data for custom periods. So we're able to look at from this graph here, we're able to select different options to actually configure to see different things that we can see. Maybe senders domain, where if you want to see senders IP and the likes. Then we also discuss about review, in which we're able to look at things around action center, where an automated response has been done, where you can actually review it, and that's actually took us back to under investigation and response, then action submission. So it was the same thing that we had there. Then we look at quarantine. So quarantine, which basically deals with emails, messages that are actually being quarantined, and you have the option to take specific actions around it. Then we look at restricted entity, where we mentioned that there's possibility that when an account is compromising your organizations and the bad actors get hold of the details of the account, they are using the account to spam users, and Microsoft will block that account from the backend to ensure that that account doesn't spend and send spam notifications. And as an admin, when you have users in your organization reporting that they're unable to send emails outbound to external domains, so one of the places to check is the restricted entities to be sure that the users has not been blocked due to spam, and you have the option to go through compromise user identity, how you respond to it by first of all, blocking the account, resetting the password, configuring or enable MFA if that is not has not been done, then revealing the top senders, top recipients, and also then going ahead to unblock the account. I will mention that it takes about 1 hour once you initiated the unblock process for the accounts to be able to now send emails. So, and then we looked at campaigns, things that you can, and as an admin, you can actually do in your organization, but we didn't really have data for campaigns here. Then we talk about the threat tracker, right, which provide the latest intelligence on prevailing cybersecurity issues. For example, being able to view information about the latest malware and taking countermeasures before it becomes an actual threat to your organization. And there are different available trackers that are available. Then we mention things around safe queries that's actually been saved from the Threat Explorer. Then track queries from your threat explorer, the query you created here, and you mentioned that you want this query to be actually be tracked. Let me see if this will bring us. So if you have this track, let me just go back, send us domain, say this query. It's not bringing any information from me equals to any of these. So any of the query, at the point of saving a query, right, you have the option to select if you want to track this query. So such queries will be listed as part of your track queries under the track explorer. Then we also mention the differences and the similarities between the Threat Explorer when we mentioned that the Threat Explorer for the Defender for Office 365 Plan 2 has a Threat Explorer, while the Defender for Office 365 Plan 1 has the real-time and detection. The same interface, only that they have the Threat Explorer has more functionality, more view than the Defender. Then we look briefly into Exchange message trace. When we mentioned that Exchange message trace is actually has been migrated to the Exchange Admin Center, where you can actually perform, the user mentioned that an email has been sent to them and they're not receiving the emails. You're able to use the essay and the Exchange message trace to know what happened to the emails, right? If the emails actually got delivered to the tenant, was it quarantine or something happened to the email? Why the email? Was the email moved to a different folder or anything? There are rules. So those are the things we looked at last week. So we have just two more tabs to look at today, which is attack simulation training as well as policies and rules. I will just give a brief thing about attack simulation training, but once we're able to cover policy and rule, we'll now jump into what the attack simulation training is all about. So basically, what attack simulation training does is that it allows you as an admin to run realistic attack scenarios in your organization. And the purpose is to identify vulnerabilities, right? And simulation of current type of attacks are available. Something around maybe you want to do simulation around spear phishing, credential harvest, even attachment attack, or even password free and brute force password attack. So those are actually available. So this particular portal is actually what Microsoft has designed for administrators to check if there's going to be any of the users that will be vulnerable, to any of the things that you've configured. So we'll actually look at that once we're able to finish our discussion about policies and rules. So basically, for Defender for Office 365, our major work is actually around policies and rules, right? And policies and rules are actually where we set things around the threat policy, things around the alert policy, as well as the activity policies. So for the threat policies, right? In threat policies, they are set of different policies that Microsoft has actually put together that can actually be configured, call them custom policies. So if you go into the threat policy, right, the first thing we're going to see, so this is actually divided into four categories. We have the templated policies, we have the policies themselves, which we can call them the custom policies. Then we have the rules category and we have others. So starting with the templated policy now, templated policies start with what we call the preset security policy. Now, if you talk about the preset security policy, preset security policies allow you to apply protection features to users based on Microsoft recommended settings. So for preset policies itself, it is actually based on what Microsoft has actually observed. Now, unlike custom policies that are actually configurable, right? They are infinitely configurable based on Microsoft, right? So virtually all of the settings in the preset policies aren't configurable at all. And they are based on Microsoft observations in their data centers. And the settings in the preset security policies provide a balance between keeping harmful content away from users while avoiding unnecessary destruction. Now, I mentioned something now for organizations, enterprise organization. There is actually very important to actually do what we call change management. Change management, I've come to appreciate it because I've seen situations whereby engineers or architects or they want to push code, they want to push an app. Let's say the DevOps guys, for example, now they want to push an application into a production environment. One of the first things that the operation governance, right? It's going to ask them, is there any change request created for this? Because from the change request that the team is going to review, okay, when this changes is implemented, what is supposed to be the outcome? Or when this changes is not implemented, is something going to be affected? Or when this changes is implemented now, is something going to be affected, right? So for preset security policy, right, these are basically recommendations from Microsoft, right? So you're not, you want to actually have a balance between keeping harmful content away from users while avoiding unnecessary disruption. Because if you create a policy and at the end of the day the policy is actually disrupting your organization's operations, then then it doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the day your the productivity of your employees is affected due to a particular changes that you want to make. That's why I believe most times the organization don't even adopt it. But personally, I actually like the policy, because Microsoft has prepared a standard documentations that really explain what each of those policies are actually about. So for preset security policies, we have the built-in protection, we have the standard protection, and we have the strict protection. Now, what is the built-in protection now? The built-in protection preset security policy is actually default policy for safe attachments and safe links protection in the Defender for Office 365. So that means for the built-in, Microsoft has already focused on the safe attachment and safe link, because most times the one of the major way that users in the organization get compromised, right, is through safe links and safe attachments, right? Is through email links and email attachment rather. So if there is a policy that can protect user from those safe links and safe attachment, then that is actually good for the organization. So the built-in Microsoft Office 365 security apply to all users in the organizations, right? To protect against malicious links and attachments. So with this building policy now, there is additional machine learning models, right? And it is actually more aggressive detonations evaluation. Then there's a visual indication in the experience, right? So for this built-in policies now, these are the things that actually comes with it. Now, if you notice here, um, built-in policies enable only for paid Microsoft Defender for Office 365 tenants. So the moment you have Defender for Office 365 subscriptions, maybe P1 or P2, for example, now, this automatically be available for your tenants. So that means at that point now, every user in the organization is protected by the built-in policy. Now, note that Microsoft said adding exclusion is not recommended. Why? Because from their data center, Microsoft have seen, okay, this is how attackers are affecting different tenants. This is what are the things attackers are doing. So those are the things that Microsoft has included in the built-in policies. So it is not recommended to actually add exclusion. Actually, if you feel that this is affecting some particular users in your organization, you actually have the opportunity to add the exclusion, but you know that it's not actually recommended. Maybe there's a particular user that is complaining that, oh, I receive a lot of email attachments from our vendors, and I notice that these attachments are getting delayed or something like that. For such users, you can actually include such users here, or if there are a group of users, right, and they've been added to a particular group, you can put their group here. And if it's a particular domain, right, you can put the domain. Maybe you have multiple domains in your organizations. So just exclude those particular users in that particular domain. Maybe like my organization, now we have over 5 to 7 domains because they are subsidiaries, right? And they are all entities on their own that are being certified by CAC. So each of them is expected to have their own domain. So if there's a particular line of business, right, that needs to be receiving a lot of attachment emails, you can escape. But again, Microsoft said that, well, it is not recommended. Now, if you look at the standard preset policy now, so for standard preset policy is actually like a baseline protection profile that protects against spam, phishing, and malware threats. Now, built-in is taking care of two things: malicious link and malicious attachments. Now, the moment we go back, right, if you go back to threat policy here, Then if you look under this policy, you can see that the built-in cover these two parts. Now, the standard policies and the other one, which is the strict policies, is adding these other three parts to it, right? Why is it so? Because if in a situation whereby, as an organization, what your threats in terms of threat intelligence is not, you're not just exposed to threats around safe link and safe attachments. There are threats around and spam, phishing, and also malware. So there's a need to actually have policies, to protect users in your organizations against such. So for this standard protection policy, so it's actually a balanced action for malicious content, and it also balances handling of bulk content, then attachment and link protection with safe link and safe attachment. So this protection also includes everything in the built-in policy, as well as other policies around spam, phishing, and malware. Now, it's also very important that in order to use the standard or the strict preset policies, right? If you're using it for the first time, right, you note that this is actually turn off, right? What you're just simply doing is to turn it on, and then after turning it on, you're adding specific users, specific groups, right? Or you're also adding specific domain into the particular policies. So for this standard now, if you need to do anything around it, so the first thing is to click on either you turn it on first or you manage protection settings. Now, when you click on manage protection settings, so it will tell you that by default, there are like four levels here. The first level is Exchange Online Protection. So what is actually the Exchange Online Protection? The Exchange Online Protection, what it does majorly is like the first level in terms of protecting the organization. Now, the Exchange Online Protection, right, is a core of security for Microsoft 365 subscription, right? So long you have a Microsoft 365 subscription, maybe from the business side of things, business basics, business standard, or business premium, right? Automatically, they all come with Exchange Online Protection, which we also call the EOP, right? And they are the core of security for all Microsoft 365 subscription. And their goal is to help keep malicious emails from reaching your employees' inboxes. Now, with new and more sophisticated attacks, right, emerging every day, so there's need to actually improve protection, and that improved protection is where we have the next one, which is Defender for Office 365 protection. So for this exchange line protection, right, you can add users, you can add groups, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all recipients, right, to read. So if there's if I want to apply this to every time organization, I just need to add all recipients. But if I want it to be that it's just specific people that want it to be applied to, I just select this specific recipients. Then I'm able to put in the users that I want these particular policies to be applied to. I can put in the users or the group. Let me see, our company. So if you select all company, right, it's going to actually add all these, but we need to actually be sure that this particular all company group is actually all company, because sometimes Microsoft has what we call the assigned group and the dynamics group. For the assigned group, if you check, actually, this is actually an assigned group. That means you have to actually add users to that particular group or company for that policy to be assigned to those users. Then if there are specific groups that you want these policies to be assigned to, you also have the option to select those specific users that these policies should be assigned to. Then if you want particular domains, you can select those domains also, that okay, it's only people from this particular domains I want this policy to be assigned to. With a particular groups, let me say IT. I'm not sure if I have any group. Finance. So I have a finance group here. So maybe if it's a finance group, I'll just select, okay, this particular group. Then if there's if I select this all recipients here, I have the option to select exclude this recipient here. I say, okay, I want this to be assigned to all recipients except, okay, so maybe I want to use both the built-in protection, the standard protection, and also the strict protection. Because you can actually use the three together. You can use the built-in You can use the standard. You can also use the strict protection, and the two will work only. And let's say I want to apply this to all recipients, for example. Now I just select all recipients, then exclude these recipients. So maybe there's a particular group of users that I want to add to the strict policy. Maybe the executives of the organization, the chiefs, the CIO, the CTO, the CEO, right, the CFO. I've created a group for all the chiefs, and I want to apply the strict one because I want to ensure that, because these are the people that will be more targeted, especially the CIO, the CFO of the organization, right? So I want to apply that particular strict protection for them. I will just select that. So let me leave this as all recipients and click on next. So the next place is going to the next stage is Defender for Office 365 protection. Now with Defender for Office 365 protection, right? It says add all users, right? Domain to protect using Defender for Office 365 capability. So for Office 365 capabilities, actually extends what the Exchange Online is doing, right? Because even though security administrators are empowered to customize their security settings, there are other two security levels in EOP and Microsoft Defender, that are actually recommended, which is the standard and the strict. So although customers' environments and needs may actually different, right? So the levels of filtering help prevent unwanted emails from reaching your employees' mailbox in most situations. So that's actually the goal of the standard or the street. So let me click on next year. Okay, previously and selected recipient. Maybe I've selected some recipients on exchange your line protection, right? So I can select that, but since it's all recipients, so I can select that and exclude maybe their recipients in a particular group called executives. So I don't know, I'm not sure I've created a group for executives. So you just select, look for that group, put them at the exemption, then say yes. Now, there's no called impersonation protection. Now, what is impersonation protection, right? This is actually the goal is to identify email message with sender information that has been crafted to resemble a legitimate sender. So in a situation whereby we have maybe the name of the CEO is bio, then bio at the domain.com, right? Then we're now having an email coming from bio. This time around is BAY instead of O, is not number 0, right? Instead of O, is not number 0. So it's like the sender is trying to impersonate the legitimate sender. So in such a scenario, what we're going to do is to select this set this impersonation protection, right? So this is always, you don't need to actually do anything, right? You just click on next for this. Now the policy mode, right? For policy mode, under the impersonation protection, so you have the option to add internal and external address of people who might be impersonated by attackers. So if you have all your CIOs, your chief emails, you can put them here because those are the likely people that are likely going to be impersonated, right? And just put them. So let's say this is one of the CIO, right? That'll be impersonated, and just put the email here. Then I can add this. So maybe another chief of the organization too. Right? So I can add them, then click on next. So for this standard protection now, what it can do is it can protect up to 350 users in your organization. So it's very important that you note that up to 350 users. Then for domains, if you come down to domains, domain can protect up to 50 custom domains. So if you have up to 50 custom domain in your organization, right, you can actually add them here to actually be protected. So let me add 1 or 2 domains. Add. Add. Once you add them, so you have the option to remove few that you don't want them to be part of the policies. Then if you want to add people trusted email, that should not be flagged as impersonation, right? Email message from those senders, right? So you want to add like trusted senders and trusted domain. Maybe you know that this particular organization, you receive a lot of emails from them, maybe domain from maybe at Microsoft.com, right? So you can add them as a trusted senders, right? Then click on next. Now for policy mode, right? So this is straightforward. You want to turn on the policy when finished. You notice that as the beginning, the policy was actually turned off, right? So if I want to turn it off, as soon as I click on next, that's when I will select this. But if I want to still leave it on off, I can just select this so that I'll go and turn it on myself and click on next. By the time I'm done, I'll just confirm everything I've configured, right? If I'm okay, I'll click on confirm. So this will actually submit what I've configured for my standard protection under preset security policies. So he's telling me that the preset security policies has been updated. So I have the option to go ahead and click on done. Once I click on done, if you notice, because I've set that option not to turn it on as soon as submitted, right? That's why it's still turned off here for me. So if I'm good with everything and I feel like, okay, I've taken the necessary permission based on change requests of my organization that, okay, these are the changes we want to implement. Even after implementing it, then and it has been approved, I can just select this to turn the policy on. All right, so that has been turned on for us. So the same thing for the street protection, which is actually a more aggressive protection profile for selected users. So those are things we call them the high value targets or the priority users. So if you have the high value target like the chiefs, the CIO, the chief HR, the chief financial officers, so any of the chief or any of the VPs, right? you you actually configure this. So the same thing is actually the same thing, only that what it's doing is it has more aggressive actions on malicious email, right? And it has a tighter control over bulk selections, and it is more aggressive, you know, machine learning. So if you click on this, so it's basically the same thing with the standard. So I want to select specific recipients, right? So I can put in, maybe I've created a group. Let me create a group. Let me create the group. And let me call the name of the group executives. But the group executives. So can you see these are our organization executives? And click on next. So you can add myself as the owner. Add admin as the owner. Next, add the member. So I can now begin to add the members. So let's say these are CIO, CFO, CEO of the organization. So I add all of them to the group, add 4. Next, so if there's any settings, so you can put them as executives. Sending me that CISO, this should be private groups. So allow admin role to be assigned to this group. So if I want to assign that, but they don't need any admin roles, so they just choose create and close. So let me refresh this for it to propagate. All right, so I can now go back to my settings. So just select the groups, just put in executives, right? Click on next. So you want to apply previous. So I want to apply previous selected recipes, right? or all recipients or specific recipients. Let's say specific recipient, we can still put the groups here as well. So depending, then click on next. So for impersonation, basically the same thing too. So if I have any of them, just add them. So I just go next here, go next here, the policy mode. So this one now to leave it to turn on, right? Turn on the policy when finished. So you see the difference between the other one. So after revealing, you submit. Once you submit, all right, click on done. So for this one, I'll notice that this is already, turn on because of that policy. So that's everything about the preset security policies. Do you have question on it before we jump to the next?
No? No questions.
Okay, let me just drop the article for you in case you want to read more about it to compare both the standard and the street protection. So let's go to the next. So go back to trade policy. And from there, we'll go to configuration analyzer. So what is configuration analyzer? What is configuration analyzer? Now, for configuration analyzer, majorly, it helps to identify issues in current configurations. Now, one of the things the machine learning is doing for Microsoft, right, is that it's looking at everything. It's an AI, right, and it's interacting with the Microsoft data center, right? So it needs a tool to actually review that is everything okay with this tenant? Can there be some improvement action, right? So the configuration analyzer in the Microsoft Defender portal provides a central location to find and to fix security policies where the settings are less secure than the standard protection and the street protection profile settings in the preset security settings. So this is still going back to our standard protections and also the street protection profile. So if there is any policies that the admin has configured, assuming that the admin didn't use the preset security policy, rather they are using the custom policies around anti-phishing, anti-spam, and anti-malware on their own, right? So they are configured that. So this configuration analyzer just helps to check, okay, everything that this admin has configured, is it as secure as a standard protection or is it as secure as a street protection? So majorly for policy in terms of analyzing, right? The configuration analyzer analyze configuration based on either things around the EOP, which is the exchange online protection. And we know already that the exchange online protection include Microsoft 365 organization with an exchange online mailbox, right? And a standard EOP organization without the exchange online mailbox. Then for the Defender for Office 365, it includes organization with either the Microsoft 365 E5 or Defender for Office 365 E5 add-on subscriptions. Then the standard and stream protection settings values that are used as baselines are actually very well available in terms of the recommended settings that are available for EOP and Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Then also beyond just anti-spam, anti-phishing, the configuration analyzer also checks some non-policy settings. So when you talk about non-policy, there's things around rules. So if you come here to if you come down to email authentication, for example, now These are actually non-policy settings. So things around DKIM, for example, now is checked. So whether it is SPF and DKIM records for specific domains are detected in DNS. So if these are not properly configured, both DKIM and DNS, for example, now in this tenant, I have not configured DKIM for any of the domain, right? Configuration analyzer even still go as far as checking that. Then if you look at the Outlook itself, whether a native Outlook external sender identifier is enabled in your organization, it also helps with checking such settings. So those are the things, some of the things that configuration analyzer does. And in terms of setting up, you see, just going into the configuration analyzers, we have the standard recommendations here, we have the strict recommendations here, and we also have configuration drift analysis and history. So what is the standard recommendation? Now the standard recommendations, compare your existing security policies to the standard recommendation, basically, and you can adjust your settings value to bring them up to the same level as standard in case they are not. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, a call. Let me take that call. All right. So the standard recommendation compares your existing security policies to the standard recommendation. So under the standard, now we can see that under anti-spam, we have 8. For anti-phishing, we have 12. Anti-malware, we have 1. DKIM 5. Then for Outlook 5. Now, if you scroll down here, it tells me I have a total of 27 items. So definitely, if you add everything here, that should be 27. So now it's showing me that, okay, these are some of the things that I need to do to ensure that I get the same configuration for standard. So standard is still talking about our prefix security policies here. So that means until I do everything that were listed, then I won't be at the point of this standard protection. So what I can do is to just go through as an admin, say, okay, I'm focusing more on standard. Okay, let me go to street protection, right? So for streets, I'm able to see also that I have almost the same thing, but it has more. That's 34. So I have more for anti-phishing. I have more for anti-spam rather, then anti-phishing. Then one still remain for malware, anti-malware. Then 5 for taking remains and the same thing. So let me just do an example by going to the standard recommendations now. So for the standard recommendations, let me look for just one different category. So I have a default. I don't want to actually change anything here because I'm still trying to work on this tenant. So let me see, let me pick this. For example, enable ticking for here, right? So this tells me that change ticking signing from false to true. So the policy is actually the name of the domain, expire.net. Say why? Why do I need to do this? So Dickim signs outbound email from your domain to verify that it hasn't been modified in transit. And DMARC uses the Dickim result to verify that the message source and the message header align to prevent spoofing. So for me now, all I just need to do is just I can click on go to the policies here. So this will actually take me to the same place. where I showed Deacon, for example, it's going to actually show me the Deacon portal under the email authentication settings. So this is actually for a different class. So for this now, if I click on, and it's currently disabled. If I click on enable now, it's not enabled for me because there are still some things I need to do. I need to add some records, right? From this portal to my domain registrar portal to create those records. I have to create like two CNAME records before that can be done. So let me give for example now. If I click on enable now, it's going to throw me an error because it's going to look if I've added those records in my domain registrar. And if I've not added those records, it's not going to, go for me. So it's telling me that CNAME is missing. So it gave me this error, right? So the error is that please publish the following Please publish the following CNAME record first. So I needed to publish these two CNAME records, right? Once I publish it, publishing means that I need to copy this record and go to my domain registrar where I purchased this domain from and go and add this record as CNAME record. You see, if you have already published the record, sync will take few minutes, as many as 4 days, right? But usually it takes maybe a few minutes anyway. So once I had these two records, right? This is actually a different class. I'm not doing this right now. Once I had this record there and I click on enable, it will automatically enable for me. Now for this my default signing, let me see. This should actually enable because it's Microsoft domain. Let me see. So since status is valid, then it should enable for me. So it's already enabled because I know that should actually enable because it's actually Microsoft default. So that is enabled for me. Then I'm sure this also should enable too for me, but I'll just leave that for now. So another way to do is this actually. Instead of getting that error after disabling, so let me say for this guy now, I'll just click on this domain. So thinking is one of the things we'll do anyway. So it's going to tell me these are the things, okay? Because I've clicked on that already. Let me click on this, for example. So say no DKIM is safe for this domain. So first thing is to click on create DKIM keys, right? Once I click on that, DKIM keys is going to create those keys for me. Basically, it's going to tell me that I need to publish these two CNAMEs, right? So I'll copy the two CNAMEs I need to publish, which is these selector 1 and the selector 2. I'll copy them and go and add to my domain registrar where I purchase the domain. Once I've done that, then I can now come back and click on enable. But because I've not copied and pasted that in the domain registrar, it's going to actually throw me an error, which I expect is the same error that it's not seeing the record yet. So let me go back here. So that's one example. Once I'm able to actually do that, right? Once I'm able to do that, if I come to this configuration drift analysis. So any changes I make from both standard and as well as street recommendation, any changes I made, right, it comes to this configuration drift analysis history. What it does is that it audits and track policy changes over time. So any policy that have changed over time, what this guy is doing is to just audit and track it to be sure that the configuration drift, what I've configured, is it increasing or decreasing it? So for this one, I say if email is sent by percentage user, anti-spam, no action. So this decreases what? So I'm supposed to actually do something that will actually increase the configuration drifts. So that's what it does. Then the street recommendation, just like standard recommendation, compares your existing security policies to the street recommendations, and you can adjust your settings values to bring them up to the same level as a street. So if I want I want it to be street, then I will just focus on that. So for each of the recommendations, I will say, so it has checked that, okay, this one, like for example, now you see for this change 7 to 6. So I click on this now. Say change bulk email threshold from 7 to 6, right? So why? Difference between bulk email and spam is often subjective. Decreasing the bulk compliance level BCL threshold can block more messages, but BCL threshold that are too low might block too many, messages. So all I need to do is just to, so this will actually take me to the article that shows the recommended and settings for the EOP and Defender. So that's, it's going to actually show me the recommendations, right? If I go through this article, I'll be able to see all the recommendations based on keeping the organization, more secure. So if I click on this view policy, so this will take me to where I can actually adjust the policies. So it takes me to the anti-spam policies, right? So in the anti-spam policy, so the beautiful thing about things is that it will take you to exact place. So I'm seeing the bulk email threshold here. So it's showing me that the bulk email threshold is 7, right? So I can scroll down. So it's because it's a default anyway. I can scroll down and click on edit spam threshold and properties. So I just need to do is to go to this 7, which is the default, right? Turn it to 6 and save. And once I save, right? But really, what I do, I don't actually mess with the defaults. Like it's always very once you discuss anti-spam policy, I'll tell you that. But anyway, that's what you're actually supposed to do. Then you close that out. So if you go back to the configuration analyzer, close this and refresh, right? So it's going to pick that this default policy again. It has not propagated yet. So it's going to propagate and it's going to actually, remove that as part of what I need to do. Just like our secure score, basically, it's going to do that for us. All right. So the other, apart from these 3 tabs, right, that shows us what is available for us in the configuration analyzer. So we also have this filter. So you have to pay attention to this filter option. So let's say my goal as an agile organization, right? Where I work, what we do is that we practice agile practice. We don't try to do a lot of things at the same time. We try to take things slow by slow. So let's say for my task for this week is to improve our anti-spam. So I can filter by anti-spam here and click on apply. So the only recommendation is going to show me are the things around anti-spam policies. So I know that there is 8 of them. So I can say, okay, quarantine message, say default is a default it's actually a default setting, policy settings, and it has an high confidence, spam detection. Say current configuration is to what? Move to junk email. Current configuration is to move to junk email folder for this particular high configuration. So if I click on this, for example, if you notice this, if you select this, it brings this other tabs. Apply policy. That will apply policy is you want to change the defaults of you want to change the defaults so that confidence spam policies is quarantine, because that's actually what it's supposed to be, right? But I don't want to actually change the default. We can say okay, right? So that will automatically, apply the policy for you and it's completed already for you. So you don't need to actually do anything regarding that. If you select again, so you're able to see the view policy. So that will take you to the policy page itself, where this policy is coming from, right? So to open the policy for you, so let's give it some second for it to open. So this is the policy, right? So the bulk email, right? It has changed to 6. Then let me see the other one. So the action here that says phishing confidence. So it has changed to, so it used to be this before, move message to junk folder, but it has changed to the quarantine message, right? I pray this policy will not affect me in the future, right? I'm actually trying to be very careful to changing of these policies. All right, so it brought you to the page basically. Then this one that I did, right? I can just say select and apply the recommendations. Okay, so it's going to apply it for me. Let me refresh it. So it's still showing this number. I guess to take time to propagate. Let me refresh the whole page first. So I guess probably it takes time to propagate. So anyway, that's actually how to, apply, use the configuration analyzer. So whether you want it to be standard recommendations or you want to go streets based on your organization's, field, based on your organization settings, anything you want to go, you can just apply, just select these. Say this is quarantine period is 15. So you want to select these for standard, for example, apply. You can view your report, you can export the report. So maybe you want to share this report with the audit teams or any of the team that is responsible for your policies, right? They want to see it. So you can export that using the export option here. Let me apply this quarantine period from 15 to 30. Okay, it's showing completed here. Let me refresh this. Let me see. Because I noticed once I refresh, it's not making changes. So it's not making changes. So I need to actually check that with the backend team to see why those changes. Maybe probably it takes time to propagate any policies that is set. All right, so that's all about the templated policies, talking about the preset security policies, as well as the configuration analyzer. Do you have any questions on the templated policies before going into the custom policies?
No, sir.
All right, awesome. So let's go to the policies itself. So under the policies, we have the anti-phishing policy. Now, basically, what the anti-phishing policy does is that by default, Microsoft 365 includes built-in feature that help protect users from the phishing attacks. So with the phishing attacks, right, the system is protecting users from there. Now, if you get that, usually, if you remember our last class, the only thing I was showing here was this official anti-phish default. So because we've created standard preset security policy and the street preset security policy, that's why we have them here. You can see the dates this were created. So this was created when I created the tenants in 2021, right? Why these other two were created today? Because they are actually the street preset security policies and the standard security policies that we created today. So that's something that's actually, and you can actually select the user, right? Or the policies that will actually, be used in the organization. Now, in organizations with Microsoft Defender for Office 365, right? So what anti-phishing policy does that it provides two type of protection. The first one is that the same anti-spoofing protections that is available in Exchange Online, EOP, right? So the same spoofing settings, it does that. Then it now goes a step further to do what we call anti-impersonation protections from other types of phishing attacks. So there are other types of phishing attack, right? That the bad actor are trying to use being smart, right? What this anti-phishing does is that it provides additional, you know, anti-impersonation protections in case there are other phishing attacks. So if you didn't have this two, for example, which I'm sticking that you did turn off after this session, if you didn't have this two, for example, now, what you can do, leave the defaults, best practice, never touch the default. Create your own anti-phishing policy because there you'll be able to select, configure it based on what you want. So let me call it anti-phishing demo. Anti-phishing demo. So you can put the same name. Click on next. So this particular policy that you want to create, which are users or groups or domain that you want these policies to be, and to be affected. So you can put all the users. So maybe you want it to apply to all users in your organization. Remember, I told you this is an assigned group, so you have to put users there. So let me see. Let me use, since I have a group, have the executive group that I've created, or the finance group that I've created. You can select it, and if it is all user, if you have a group that you've created, maybe a dynamic group that you've created that contains all the users in your organization, and you are sure that you want to assign this policy, you want it to apply to all users. So you just select that particular, that group. Then if you want it to affect all domains in your organizations, you can put in all the domains that you have. So you can just put in all the domains that you have in the tenants. Once you have them, then if you want to exclude some users, maybe you're trying to ensure that maybe you have thousands of users and you want to exclude like 5 of them, you can select this option to exclude the users or the groups or the domains based on what you want. Then once you're done, you're okay, you click on next. Now for phishing threshold and protection, this is actually one of the very important things that you wouldn't see, right? Especially when you are configuring the preset security policies. Now, for phishing threshold, now the standard is 1, right? So you can actually set your phishing threshold and design impersonation and spoof protection for this policy. Now, you have to actually have the opportunity to actually use a slider. So you can drag it to from being standard to aggressive, from being aggressive to more aggressive, then from being more aggressive to most aggressive. But the default is always the standard. So based on what the level of aggression you want the policy to actually take, you can select this slider. So this slider is based on what you want. So I want it to be aggressive, so let me just leave it like that. Then I want to enable this to protect 350 users. Talking about the impersonation, right? I want to enable the impersonation protection to protect both 350 users, whether they are internal and external users. If you select that, right, and you'll be able to select the users that you want to add in terms of impersonation. If you remember, we added some couple of users for the other one, so you can just put the name of the users, add the email address. Let me just put in, I don't know the users I have here, but let me just add the user. Let me see if I have such a user. Add that as well. Then click on add. Done. So I've added just 2 users here, but again, this can protect up to 350 users in your organizations. Then if I have domain that I want to protect, I can include the domains I own. Then I can view all my domains that I own. This will take me to this the portal. So include domains I own. Then include custom domain. If I want to include the custom domain also, I have the option to include the custom domain by just selecting this option here. I can now begin to search for the domain. You see google.com. I had that. I want to have microsoft.com. That, then add domains. So depending on the domains I want to, when I'm okay, I click on done. Then there's another option here that says domain, trusted senders and domain. So there are some users that I don't want this policy to to affect that much, right? I want to ensure that whenever they send emails to users in my organization, users in my tenants, right? Those users will actually receive such an emails. So what I will do is that I will add them as trusted senders or trusted domain here. So definitely they are external to your organization. So if there are people that already know, so let me add the valid address. So let me see, this guy is a trusted sender. Okay, let me add this guy. So this guy is a trusted sender. So I can add as many trusted senders I want to add here. I click on done here. Now, after that, we have enable mailbox intelligence. Now, what this does is that it enables artificial intelligence that determines user email pattern with their frequent contacts to identify. So what these are doing, both mailbox intelligence and enable intelligence for impersonation protection. Microsoft actually recommend them. So one does it enables the AI that determines user email pattern, while the other one that says enables intelligence for impersonation protections, right? It enables enhanced impersonation results based on each user sender map and allow it to determine specific actions on impersonation, right? So by default, to enable spoof intelligence is also, recommended and is also checked. So once you're okay with these settings, you can click on next. So then you'll be taken to an action tab. And for action tab, you see what actions you like this policy to take on messages. And you may turn on certain protection to assess all available policy actions. So again, imagine doing all these things and you have the preset security settings for you to just, enable things for you. So you have to actually go through each of this one. For example, now for message action, if a message is detected as user impersonation, what do you want to do? You want to redirect the message to other email. You want to quarantine, move the message to junk folder. You select that. If a message is detected as domain impersonation, what should happen? Move the message to maybe quarantine the message. If message intelligence detects an impersonation user, what should that thing do? So you can select that apply quarantine policy. There's any policy you've created as in your quarantine policy, you've not gotten there yet, you'll be able to, assign that policy also. Then you want to on DMARC record policy when the message is detected as spoof. So for DMARC, for example, now, what are the options? Either to quarantine the message or move the message to junk. Select that. If the message is detected as spoof and DMARC policies and the preset is set to P equals reject. So reject or quarantine the message, right? So you'll be able to select a lot of functions, a lot of features, a lot of settings under the actions, right? The message is detected as a spoof by spoof intelligence, right? So you can mark the message, move it to junk. Then safety tips and indicator, show first contact safety tips, right? This is recommended. So you can select that, use show users impersonation safety tips, show domain impersonation safety tips. So these are shown to the users. Then click on next. So once you're done with everything, just review everything you've configured in case you mix something out. This will show you high level overview of everything you have configured. And from there, you just click on submit. Once you submit, that will create the anti-phishing policy for you. Again, the rule of thumb is that always leave the default policy and create your own custom anti-phishing policy. I don't know why I'm getting this error for these policies, but I think I will need to review this also with Microsoft. No, it's not creating for me. Mhm. It doesn't want me to use the browser or change the browser or use an in-private window. Whichever way, I'll get to the bottom of it. All right, so that's actually basically how you create the anti-phishing policies. So let's go to the next one under our custom policy, which is the anti-spam policy. Now, for our anti-spam policies, right? What is this doing is that in the anti-spam policy page, you use it to configure policies that are included in anti-spam protections. And these policies include connection filtering, spam filtering, and outbound email. So basically, if you want to configure anti-spam policy in Exchange Online Protection, now in Microsoft 365 organization with mailboxes, either with Exchange Online or standalone Exchange Online protection. Without Exchange Online, same thing as whether it is an inbound email messages are automatically protected against spam by the Exchange Online protection. And the Exchange Online protection anti-spam policies, which is also known as the spam filter policies, or we'll call it the content filter policies, is part of the organization overall defense against spam. And Microsoft actually recommend turning on and adding all users to standard or strict preset security policies, right? Because the default anti-spam policies automatically actually applies to all users. So this, you have three defaults actually. You have the anti-spy inbound policies, the connection filters policies, and the anti-spy outbound policies. Now, the default is applied to all recipients in the organization. So if you have a greater granularity, if you want to actually, go deeper, granular in terms of calling, you can create a custom anti-spam policy that could apply to either specific users, specific groups, or specific domain. And in configuring it, you can configure using this Defender portal, or you can even use either the PowerShell to also configure the anti-spam policies. So what you do, you create a policy. So you have to specify, is it an inbound and outbound policy? First of all, before we create any of the policy. So again, the the presets, both the standard and the strict preset security policy is also showing here, right? Why? Because we've used the protection template to actually create that. Let's check the default anti-spy inbound policy. Now, for the default anti-spy inbound policy, I think this has changed already to 6 year, but I don't know why it's not reflecting there. So you have a lot of things that is protecting or that it could protect you from. Bulk email actions, bulk email threshold, URL to .biz or .info website, image link to remove sites, numeric IP address in URLs, URL redirect. So it does a lot of things you could actually configure, right? And under the actions, you will see that for spam message actions, move the message to junk email. For high confidence spam, this was actually been applied based on our configuration analyzer. So we have a lot of things you can do here. Now, one of the plays that is actually very important is this allow block senders domain. Now, most of the times, like I've had a series of situation whereby phishing emails were sent to our organization, and one of the things that we do is to block the senders and also block the domain. Why? Because we don't want any email to come again from that senders. So after running the content search to look for those emails and delete it across all the users that received the email so that they don't go and click on the link, right? Another way to protect the users. The users that send the emails, we add them to the block list here. So whether this is an external users, right, from Gmail, from other domains, right, we had them as part of the block sender here. I don't add anyone. Then the domain of the user, just anything after the ads for that user. Copy that as well. We had the domain as a block domain here, so that any email even coming from that domain, because you know that that domain was actually being used by bad actors, right, to send emails. So we're able to use this action to actually block such users. Now, the second default policy is called connection filter policy. Now, unlike the anti-spam inbound policy, right, that deals with either the user's email or UPN or the domain, this focuses on the IP. So if there's maybe a particular user is sending an email from a particular IP, for example, now a compromised IP, the bad actors, you can actually block that particular IP too. So using that tool, that takes connectivity to the message analyzer tool that we discussed in our last class, right? After analyzing the email, you'll be able to get the IP of the bad actor, right? That sent the emails. You can copy the IP, and drop the IP and say, allow block message from the following IP. So you just allow it, you know, sorry, always block messages from the following IP address. Just put it there to block that particular IP. So any email that the bad actor is going to send from that IP, for example, now it's going to be blocked and it's going to be blacklisted, basically. So that's what connection filter policy actually do for us. And the reverse of the first one, which is anti-spam outbound policy now. So in the case of anti-spam outbound policy now, this is now you, sending emails from your organization, right? Sending emails, sending emails from our organization to external users. So the same thing, if you scroll down, You cannot even go there. If you click on edit protection settings here, so you're able to see message limits. You want to set, okay, what is the message limit for external message, right? Message set an internal message limit, right? Set a daily message limit. So you're able to even set some things. Maybe you feel that a bad actor has compromised particular users, right? And they're sending a lot of message, spam messages from your tenant, from your domain. So you can even set this to a limit. Just setting, putting any number you like. You can type in the numbers or use this arrow up or arrow down for reads. And the same thing too. You can set that. Then restriction placed on users who's reached the message limit. So see, so what are the things you can place on the users that have reached the message limit? Maybe you want to prevent users from sending more than 30 messages in a day, right? You can set all these limits. You can send a message to internal users, they're sending message to external users. But of course, you don't want to do that. Some users might have a need of sending a lot of emails to external users. Now, in terms of restriction, restrict users from sending emails until the following day, or restrict users from sending emails at all. Maybe the user has been compromised, so you want to restrict the emails. You can use this um anti-spam add-on policies, right? There are no actions, alerts only. You get that? Now, this is one of the important feature, right, that we have to actually take note of. Forward email messaging. Now, automatic forwarding currently is set to on. Forwarding is enabled. Usually before now, Microsoft usually set it to automatic system control. Now, for automatic system control, what it implies is that the system will be using the AI to determine if the message will be forwarded or not. And guess what? Most of the time, the message will not get forwarded. So that's why by default, it's always advisable. Now, why do we enable this forwarding? It has advantage. It has the disadvantage. Now, Microsoft put it on automatic system control because it wanted the AI to work with the users. So in a situation whereby an account was compromised, right? A bad actor was compromised an account. So they were able to get in to configure an inbox rule to forward emails from the account to external users. Now with this system control now, once this is in place, right? Whatever the bad actor has configured at the inbox rule level for the user, the message will not go. So that means what the bad actor is trying to do is that maybe the account that was compromised, let's say is a CFO account. So he wants to get some details, some financial details and all that. So he doesn't want them to be aware that he's receiving those emails. So he now went ahead to configure that email forwarding. So as the email gets to the CFO's account, an email is being forwarded, right, or redirected, forwarded to their attacker's email or mailbox, right? And they're able to see confidential information that they're not supposed to see. So Microsoft recommend that this should also be as system control. But for organizations that maybe they want to allow it, you just select on. So for this enabled, that means even users, another bad thing. So even users in the organization that are malicious users. So this can actually, bring out what we call the insider risk, right? That means users will be able to configure email to forward to their personal emails. That is going to, it's going to be actually be a security breach. So that's another important protection that we should take note there for our anti-spam outbound policy. So I'm not going to change anything. So I'm just going to cancel this. So it's always on by default and the priority is lowest. So that means any policy you create will take higher priority compared to this particular one. So if you create this, so you can only create either the inbound or outbound. Now let's say I want to create the outbound, for example. Now I can say anti-spam, anti-spam outbound demo. So you can copy that and paste it. Click on next. So the users, the same thing. The users I want to include there. I want to use this policy to protect. I'll put them there, especially the chiefs. Put them there. The groups can either use the individual users or use the groups or the domain. The ones I'm okay. Exactly, it's one condition. So let me just put in one users. Okay, next. So I can now set this limit. So those outbound protection settings that we saw earlier. So I can now set the limits. Okay, this should be okay. This user should not send more than 20 emails or 30 emails, so that we sure that as an admin, I'm trying to ensure that it doesn't send too many emails out in case the account has been compromised, right? So especially if an account is prone to being compromised again. So this you can see now. So setting an internal message limit, set an external message limit. So this is applied to external. So if they're sending email from their domain to an external domain, so this limits that is set here will be applied. They're sending emails from their domain to other users inside the domains. So the limit has been set here will be applied. Then daily message limits. So that means no matter the number of messages, both internal and external, that's what we apply. Then restriction that is placed on the users who reach the limits. So if the users maybe you set the limit here to 30 messages, and the 30 messages already the users are sending that 30 message for that day. So this restriction, okay, you want to block them from sending email until the following day, or you want to restrict them from sending email at all. So that means you're not even able to send emails at all on the tenant. If that is applied, then you can see the automatic forwarding. So by default, it's always system control because Microsoft is trying to protect the tenants from, insider risks or even from malicious attackers. Then from there, you can select this and check, even make it to turn off. Can turn it off by blocking or disabling the forwarding itself. Then if you want to send notifications, you want to send a copy of suspicious outbound message that exceeds this limits to these users or group. Maybe you want to send it to your admin account, you can put the admin account there, notify these users or group. Each sender is blocked. You to send it to the IT teams, you can put the mail group there so that anybody in the team will be aware that, oh, this user has been blocked. Then click on next. Once you're done clicking on next, okay, you just check this back. So you can review everything you've created, then click on create. Then that should create it. But I'm guessing it's going to throw that error also. Okay, oh great, it did create it. So click on done once it's created. So if you refresh these or refresh the entire browser, you should see the anti-spam policy has been created. Okay. So there's a policy here. So if you notice here, it has a priority 0, right? Why is it priority 0? So it's a custom policy that has a priority 0. Then this test policy, this is inbound, I believe. This was inbound I created. It's also a priority 0. So the lower the priority, the importance the policy is. So the one that has priority 0, that means if there is conflict between these two policies, right? There's conflict between them. It is a policy that has 0 as priority that will take precedence, right? So there are conflicts in there, 0 will take precedence. Then you have the option after the policy has been created. If you check the policy, just selecting the policy. So you have other things around the policy. You can turn off the policy here, and the policy will turn off because all the current status is on. The default one that says always on here, you can turn it off here. Once you turn it off, the policy will definitely be turned off automatically. So even though the policy is carrying priority 0, because it's turned off, it's not going to take precedence. You can decrease the priority here. It's currently as priority 0. If you click on this to decrease the priority, so you want to increase the power because there's no other one apart from this one. There's another one. You still see the option to decrease and increase. So you can also go back to increase it also. So any policy that you want to take precedence should have the lowest priority. Then if you want to delete this policy also, you can also delete the policy by using the policy. So this just shows us every other thing that we've seen about the policy. Allow senders, allow domains, block senders, and block domain. Yeah, that's everything about the anti-spam policy. Then the last one is the anti-malware policy for today, because we've looked at safe attachment and safe links in our last class. So the same experience, right? So for anti-malware too, you always have the defaults. So these two were created because of the preset security policy that will create both the standard and the streets, right? So to create an anti-malware policy. So what does anti-malware policy actually do? So in terms of anti-malware policy in the Exchange Online protection, so what it does is that it automatically protects against malware, right? And some of the major categories of malware that is doing talk about viruses that affect either infects the programs and data, right? And spread through your companies or your network, looking from programs to infect. Then talk about spyware that gathers your personal information, such as your signing information and your personal data, then send it back to the author, person that created the spyware. Then the ransomware, which encrypts your data and determine, right? Uh, it encrypts your data and demands for payments to decrypt it. So anti-malware software doesn't actually help you to decrypt any encrypted file, but it can help you to detect the malware payload that is associated with the ransomware. So EOP itself, it offers a multi-layer of malware protection that designs to, to catch all known malware in either in Windows, in Linux, or even in Mac that travels into or out of the organizations. And a lot of a lot of things actually also provide anti-malware protection, especially in the Microsoft 365 Defender. We have a layered defense against malware. You know, the anti-malware scans, helps protect against both known and unknown threats. And the Microsoft anti-malware include a powerful detection that protects provide protections even during the early stage of the malware outbreak. It also provide a real-time threat response. So during some outbreaks, right, the anti-malware teams might have enough information about a virus or other form of malware to write sophisticated policies rule that detect the threats even before a definition is available. And these rules are published to the global network every 2 hours to provide the organization with an extra layer of protection against attacks. And it also does, lastly, a fast anti-malware definition deployments. So the anti-malware teams can actually receive and integrate malware definitions and patches before they are publicly released. So these are some of the things that anti-malware actually does for the organization. And for the policy controls the configurable settings and also the notification options for malware detection. And the important settings in anti-malware policies are actually, describes. They're actually based majorly subjective. So the same way we have for anti-phishing, there's some things we have configured for anti-malware. So let's go quickly to create one. So if I call it anti-malware demo. So this is optional. We can put it, just copy and paste it here. Then click on next. So if there are users that you want, you can put them there. If you want to exclude, you can also put them there. So let me put one of the global admin accounts. Then click on next. So for protection settings, now you can see that it has a whole lot of protection settings. Now, one of the protection settings is it enables common attachments filter. So any attachment that ends with .ace, .apk, .aap, .apx, any attachment like that, then if you want to even select file type, you can select additional file types, right? Yeah, based on what you want to protect. They say reject the message with a non-delivery report, quarantine the message. So if any of this file type is found, be sent via email, right? It's you want it to reject the message or you want the message to be quarantined. So any of them, then if you want to enable 0-hour purge, is also something that Microsoft recommend. Now, 0-hour purge for malware guarantees message that are found to contain malware after they have been delivered to Exchange Online. So that's what they do. So after the message has been delivered to the Exchange Online mailbox, so by default, so the 0-hour auto purge, we call it ZAP for malware, is turned on, right? By default, it's actually turned on, and we recommend you to leave it on, right? And for quarantine policies in the anti-malware policies, what they do is that I was talking about this next one here. What they do basically is it defines what users are able to do to quarantine messages and whether the users receive quarantine notification. So by default, the recipient don't receive notification for messages that were quarantined as malware, and users can't also release their own quarantine malware message, regardless of any available settings that admin has configured. So based on the quarantine policy that has been configured here, you can select it. So all you just need to do is select that. Yeah. Then if you go down, so for in terms of notification, you want to notify an admin about undelivered message from internal senders. You want to notify an admin's, so you can put the admin's email address here. You can put the admin email address here. Um, you know,
I'm here.
okay. So you notify an admin about undelivered message to external sender. Then if you want to customize notification set, you can also customize that as well. But you can put the full name, from address subject address, so you can actually customize the notification text. So once you're done, just click on next. So review everything that you've configured, then click on submit. So once it's created, just click on done, and you'll be able to see that there. So the same thing to like the other one. So it has the highest priority compared to standard and straight, because no priority is actually set for those ones. Then the default always have the lowest of the priority. Do you have any questions so far?
Not really.
Okay. So the last class we've actually looked at safe attachment and safe link. So we're not going to repeat that again today. So from the next class, we just start our discussion from rules, and then we'll look at the attack simulator.